So leopard geckos are a super common animal in the pet trade, and they're really simple to feed. They're completely carnivores, so you don't have to worry about feeding them like fruits, veggies, or greens. It's just whatever insect you choose, but I'll be talking about that more because you will need to add a little bit to that. So my gecko Goldie, he's actually sleeping right now, but you'll see him. I feed him mealworms, and that's it. However, saying that, I also add some supplements, which you can buy. And even adding these, it still makes feeding them really simple. So I use Repticalcium. This has calcium and vitamin D3 in it, which are two important parts of your animal's diet, specifically your leopard gecko's diet. So firstly, mealworms. They're really cheap, easy to find. They're basically everywhere, and they live a long time. And I actually have a whole video on why I think mealworms are a great feeder insect, so you can go watch that. But now I'll be showing you just how to feed them to your leopard gecko. Now, to feed your gecko, all you have to do is take some sort of dish. I have this little plastic feeding dish, and then you put your mealworms in it. You can put as many as you want. You can basically fill it up. And then you just add some of the Repticalcium and vitamin D3. You sprinkle that on top, just over kind of a layer. So when your gecko eats the mealworms, it'll also ingest this calcium and D3. And you don't really have to worry about overfeeding your geckos if you're doing mealworms. There's some fattier foods like superworms, or I'm blanking on other names for other types of worms you can feed them. But those usually have more fat, and you don't really have to worry about mealworms. So yeah, it's pretty rare that you're gonna overfeed your gecko, because it'll just eat what it needs. If you start seeing it looking overweight, then you might need to cut it back. But you wanna feed your gecko at least twice a week. I recommend feeding them like 3 to 5 times a week. I feed mine about 4 to 5 times a week. But like I said, you can just leave a bowl in there and always have mealworms in it available for your gecko. Especially if you're breeding them, you definitely want to always have a bowl with mealworms available all the time. After you put the mealworms in the dish and then put the supplements on top, you can just stick that dish somewhere into your gecko's tank, and they'll probably start eating it if they're already used to this kind of food. Now, geckos can be picky. They don't always take mealworms. You might have to try a lot of different foods like crickets, dubia roaches, and then other types of worms to see what it'll eat, because every single gecko is a little bit picky in some way. Some geckos, however, will eat just about anything you put in there, but don't worry if they just won't eat mealworms. You might have to try other things. And to feed them different things, you're gonna wanna basically just follow what it says. You can research online. So like if you found that your gecko only eats crickets, then just look online to see how often you should feed them crickets and stuff. But yeah, after that, you can just stick the bowl in and let your gecko enjoy the mealworms. You can either fill this bowl and put a little bit of supplement, like 3 to 6 times a week, or just leave it in there all the time, especially if it's a young one and it's growing. Because like I said, you don't really need to worry about overfeeding it, because it's pretty hard to get your gecko overweight or obese. It can happen, so you should always keep an eye on your gecko and watch its weight. Make sure it's not overweight based off what kind it is. Like mine's a giant leopard gecko, so I need to keep them in that giant leopard gecko weight range. But it's different for different kinds of leopard geckos. So yeah, that's it for this. It's pretty simple. If you have more questions, feel free to ask me. But I'm Alex, and thanks for watching.